Oh, hi! This week, we're gonna do a little year-end recap, both in the projects that I've done that I've probably forgotten about, and for my no-buy year too. So if you want to hang out with me, just have a chill, purgatory week hang, both because it's the week between Christmas and New Year's and no one ever knows what to do with themselves, but also I am mentally a little checked out and somewhere else most of the time. So my hope is forcing myself to look head on at the projects that I did this year and how much I made and how much I've progressed in my sewing skills and things I've learned that I forgot I didn't even know how to do at the beginning of the year, I think will be helpful for me. So if you also have stuff that you're really proud of that you made this year and like maybe haven't given yourself credit for, or you want to go back through your Instagram posts and share some of the projects that you've done, I would love to see and hear about all of it because we gotta give ourselves more credit, y'all. We don't do it enough. At least I certainly don't, and I feel like I get the same vibe from a lot of y'all. Also, just because I think it's worth touching on, March of 2021 is when I found out that I am not a neurotypical person. Who'd have thunk? Now, I've always been someone with anxiety issues, so I was 0% surprised that that was something I got diagnosed with. The depression caught me off guard, but especially feeling how I'm currently feeling and having felt like this many times in the past. Should I have been as surprised as I was to find out that I have it? And also, the most game-changing one is figuring out that I do in fact have ADHD, because that is something that negatively impacts my life every day. There are things that I struggle with that I assumed everybody struggled with, and life doesn't have to be as hard as it has been, which is why I'm taking a very big step tomorrow where I've been in talk therapy for a couple months now. You know, I can't actually remember. I want to say it was something like August or September that I started therapy. I love my therapist. Now listen, it's been a long road because it took 6 months to even get my diagnoses, and then another 6 months or so to actually start therapy. I had a really hard time finding a therapist, and thankfully the first one I actually got an appointment with and met with is lovely. She's a licensed clinical social worker, which I didn't even know was an option. I thought you had to get therapy from either a psychiatrist, which I know they don't tend to do the talk therapy stuff, or an actual psychologist, but I really love and feel heard and seen and helped by the licensed clinical social worker I've been seeing. Especially just the environment I grew up in. Social worker is actually a really, really good fit for me because she's had a lot of experience with the type of things that I dealt with when I was younger, which obviously informs you as an adult. Everything comes back to childhood trauma. So yes, in addition to months in of talk therapy and like a version of cognitive behavioral therapy, though not super regimented or anything, I'm also going to talk to my primary care tomorrow about starting a medication. I'm specifically seeking something that I can take as needed and isn't a daily medication, but we'll see how it goes. I know it can be a bit of a roller coaster trying to figure out good brain meds, so we'll see what happens, but I'm taking the plunge tomorrow and I'm going to start that next part of the journey. So even though I'm currently feeling like I'm in a depressive state, I don't know the full terms for things, but I at least am letting myself call it that now that I've been diagnosed, where I wouldn't even let myself voice the feelings I was having because I didn't feel like I had earned it, whatever the fuck that means. Now that I've been educating myself more on it, that's what this is. This thing you're currently experiencing is part of the depression. Though today's obviously a more functional day than the past couple ones, so I'm taking what I can get. That is why I'm recording bundled up in a blanket right now. We're working with what we got. In case you're just curious about the no-buy year, I will address that first. Then we can jump into the longer part of the video, which will be recapping all the video projects I did this year. And I think I only missed 1 week, and it's because I fucking had COVID. An update on that too. I am feeling better. Energy levels are almost back to normal. I'm still a little quick to get winded, but the reason I was high risk in the first place is because I have a chest deformity that pushes on my lungs and my heart. So breathing is hard on a normal day. So I don't exactly know where the COVID trauma ends and my regular shitty breathing is just back to where it usually is. Anyways, no buy year update. My goals were to keep using up stuff that I had in-house, which I definitely did, and to maybe only buy supplemental materials. I bought some fabric to do a cosplay that I never ended up making because I ended up having a really bad brain time back in October where I was going to do a Rohan cosplay. So I did thrift some bed sheets and stuff with that goal in mind, and that pile of fabric is now sitting in a stash that didn't used to be there. Though I did end up doing a custom order with some of that fabric, so it's not like it was a total loss of space. I did utilize some of it. I did also buy myself some knitwear because I wanted to make a pile of sweaters. I think I spent $16 on all of the yardage, and I have worn all but one of those sweaters at least once a week. There's one I need to like readjust and then it will go into full rotation in my closet, but they're like basic essentials that I needed, and I just didn't have the fabric for the things that I wanted. Yes, it was brand new fabric, but I think I have the smallest scrap of that laying around. It's not like I put it into my stash and didn't touch it. I used it immediately, which at least I didn't add to my hoard with that set of projects. It did get used up, and I'm feeling very good about that. As far as garment acquisitions, I did receive a huge pile of vintage dresses. I have a video where I went through the entire stash. I want to try pleating. I actually wrote that down on my goal list for 2022, which is super weird to say, 2022. What is time? But making a pleated skirt slash dress is definitely on my list of things because I, for some reason, strayed away from pleats. They seem hard, but they're so flattering. Some of the cuts of the vintage dresses were so flattering. I wish any of them actually properly fit me, so I could have kept more of them, but at least I have them to use as references and take apart. They're on my cutting table right now and I can see them. I think there's 4 or 5 that I kept so that I can either use elements of them and kind of upcycle it, or I can more thoroughly examine how it was constructed and then probably also donate those. I also did some thrifting. The dress I made last week, the shirred flannel, was actually something I bought I think 2 weeks ago when a friend of mine was in town and we were looking for stuff to do safely, and thrifting was, you know, one of the only options really. So I at least did the project immediately upon acquiring that one, and I've worn it so many times. I love it the most. I also did 2 different projects with a pair of like jeggings I got earlier in the year. They were these maroon ones, and I tried desperately to make them work once I thrifted them. I'd been watching a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and Chelsea Peretti's character is always wearing maroon skinny jeans. I bought 2 pairs of pant-like things, and then there was a pair of maroon shorts. I'm keeping the shorts. I wore them a ton over the summer, but I did redonate both pairs of the bottoms because they just weren't working for me, and the only reason I acquired them is because I felt like there was something missing from my wardrobe and those just weren't fitting into place, so they went back into the ether. I did also buy myself 3 pairs of black pants. I literally had 2 pairs of jeans that still fit me. I have put on some weight in the past year or two, and just things weren't working for me that I owned anymore, and I felt like I was punishing myself by not letting myself buy new things. And there's just nothing like the cool factor that I feel when I'm wearing black pants. I don't know what it is, specifically like black skinny jeans. I just feel powerful when I have them on, and I'm not giving that up. So yes, I thrifted 3 pairs of pants. I've been wearing all of them in rotation, so they're getting used. I don't have to tweak anything on any of the pairs, so it's not like they're sitting in a repair pile. I did also, after a kind of intense therapy session about tights and leggings, let myself go and buy some tights and leggings because I have repaired a bunch. One of my goals for this past year was to get better at repairing. My best friend gifted me that speed weave. It was something I had talked about in that video, and she had like already ordered it for me and was waiting to give it to me. So when she saw that I had talked about it in that video, she's like, oh God, please nobody else get this. And I've mended a ton of stuff. The pajama pants I'm currently wearing got a second life because I used the speed weave to repair some holes in the butt with it. I've repaired a bunch of socks. I repaired some sweaters. I've repaired some tights. I did just restitch the toes on a bunch of sets of my sweater tights because those were coming apart. So I did get better at mending things, and that feels really good. I've also had to mend so many pairs of my partner's pants. I have no word. It's almost every week I have to do a repair, so the mending game is on point, and I'm feeling really, really good about that. Just having basic tights. Again, I felt like I was punishing myself, not letting myself have those things, and then after an intense therapy session, we figured out that I don't let myself have nice things, essentially, and then it was like my homework to go buy things. Also, I never spend money on myself, so that was another facet of it. It's like, you have the money set aside, you can do this, please go buy yourself some things. And yeah, so and I've been wearing all of the stuff that I bought, which is also part of it. I'm really notorious for buying a thing, even if it's a $3 thrifted dress, and it feeling too special for me to wear, like I don't deserve to wear the nice thing. And I know I'm saying this while wrapped in a bathrobe and a blanket with no bra on, like just a regular day in my life is worthy of wearing the nice things because I am worth wearing the nice things. So, you know, who'd have thought fashion had such a deep impact? Okay, other purchases I made that I did feel a little bit guilty for were this skein of yarn is at a thrift shop. It's a colorway that I want a scarf out of. So I have my knitting looms out. I have a project bag going next to the couch in the other room. So as I'm watching movies or whatever, I can work on stuff and like make myself some things. I did also buy 2 patterns. I know that I do not have anything like either of these, and I want to specifically work on like a wrap dress where I have felt stuck on my progress because I didn't have like a jumping off point for a wrap dress. So I did buy a wrap dress pattern. I think I'm overcomplicating it in my head, but this is how we learn, right? And kind of a wrap top situation. There are these like cape coat things, and it's also like a crossover type thing in the front. And I want to get the gist of it because it's not something I've really messed around with. And then over the summer, I went on a trip to visit some friends up in Maine, and we went to a couple really cool like secondhand type stores and bookshops, and I found Shelter and Clothing, a textbook of the household arts, which is a book that was published in 1914, and it has a lot of cool information as far as like how textiles even come about, but there's also a bunch of stuff about patterning and making your own clothes and like budgeting out a new wardrobe over the course of 3 years, which I feel like is a really good attitude to have because I've been wanting to revolutionize my wardrobe, but I know it's a very slow process and you want to do it bit by bit and like really love the things that you have. And that's how things used to be rather than, yeah, go buy that camisole that's $1.80 at fucking Forever 21 and then just replace it when it falls apart next week. That shouldn't be the standard. Though I know it's a very nuanced and complicated conversation to have here. I don't know, it was weirdly reassuring finding that book and being like, all right, I'm not completely unhinged wanting to try to be as resourceful and like, I guess sustainable in my clothing efforts as I am. I feel like I'm hard on myself about it, but it's not completely unfounded to feel the way I feel about it. I also thrifted these books. I don't know if y'all are familiar with it at all. There's some cool stuff in here, and I do have crochet stuff that I've been gifted previous Christmases that I still have yet to fuck around with. So these have some basic crochet patterns and knitting patterns and other needle craft patterns. I have some weird fabrics that are meant for needle crafting and stuff. So this shows a bunch of different ways how to use it. And there's just regular sewing patterns. So again, I was trying not to buy new patterns this year, but this seemed like too good of a collection to pass up. I have books 1, 2, and 3. I don't know if there are more, but if any of y'all are familiar with them, I think they're from the 70s and they're just completely untouched. Okay, actually 1980s. So yeah, excited to look through this. I know I have said this every year, but I really need to make a point to like use the patterns and books at hand. I still have the Colette sewing book, which is free online. Obviously you have to pay for like a physical copy, but the entire book is free online. And I also have one of the Gertie sewing books, and I have another sewing book that I have yet to really work through. So I know I've done all the Tilly books. Love her teaching style and just the actual patterns she makes. They're just great. I really like a lot of the stuff. So goals for this year are to continue getting better at general sewing skills. I would love to specifically get better at dressmaking. I talked about this in a video recently where I made myself wear handmade clothes for a week, and I always feel like I have a ton of dresses in my wardrobe, and I do. All of them are thrifted pretty much though. I've tweaked some by my own hand and I've made a couple from scratch, but it's not as much as I think I have. And a lot of the thrifted ones I've just held on to because I don't have something better to replace them with. But if I make my own dress exactly how I want the dress to look, and I don't have to settle for this like partial thing, then those dresses can get re-thrifted. I can send them back out into the world and then have my own handmade things that I'll love even more. I have definitely felt myself restricted in how many dresses I can make because I feel like I do it all the time, but I really haven't made that many. So big goal for 2022 is to just make all the dresses. And yes, I will make sure I do some fucking pleats. Other goals I have for 2022 are doing fabric printing. I was gifted some specific ink and more lino cutting blocks so I can print my own fabric, which I've tried before, but I didn't realize at the time that the ink I was using was not washable in fabric kind of thing. It was like for paper products. So I'm excited to come up with some things. I made a really cool print last year and I sent all of my Patreon pals like a paper print of it, but I want to start with patches. Spoiler alert, that's probably the January gift if they come out well. I'm going to send out a batch of patches, but then eventually I would like to print that on some bags that I'm making, and then even make like a swath of fabric with a repeating pattern and make a skirt or something out of it. That's the ultimate goal. Oh, I want to do it so bad. So that is very much on the list. Really pumped about what that can turn into, because I'm probably not even sure of all the possibilities there are as far as like printing my own fabric, but it's gonna be fun. That's definitely the thing I'm like chomping at the bit to do the most. Okay, now the next phase of the video is recapping the projects I made this year, which is me forcing myself to look at all the work that I've done. I am forever in a state of feeling like I don't do enough and that I'm not enough. This is like weirdly hard. I remember having a hard time with it last year, addressing how much I made. Considering there's over 50 videos from this year, I can't think of more than like 4 things. Okay, so I've scrolled back to my 2020 roundup. I did remember this was the first project I did this year because I just washed this blanket. The first thing I did last year was make a t-shirt quilt, which had been like my white whale for a very long time. I don't feel like I need to make another one. That hurt my body very badly and took almost an entire week to put together. My partner uses it all the time and that makes me feel really good. Seeing it get used a lot, and it has a lot of memories from both of us, so maybe my favorite thing I did. I also haven't looked through the rest of the videos from the year, so let's see. Oh dang, I started the year off strong because there was like a knit dress pattern, super basic. It was the McCall's 7313 dress, and I did make 2 versions of them because I did basically like a wearable mock-up and then kind of tweaked the pattern to something that I like. It still needs more adjustments and I have not revisited that, so maybe that's something I can also do this year, is like get that final set of tweaks done on that pattern so that I can make a bunch of them, because they did go together really quickly. There's no darts, there's no pleating, there's no gathering. It just has an elastic waist, a fairly basic shaped top. It's a very comfortable dress and I do enjoy wearing the 2 that I made. The next project was the color block top, where I customized a pattern that I had already made before and made like a whole separate yoke piece. Was a skill I definitely didn't have in the year previous. I forgot about that. That was a little trickier than something I normally make. Little tweaks like that where it's easy to make simple mistakes. That's the kind of stuff I struggle with a lot with what I now know is my ADHD. I know the reason I put stuff like that off, fine-tuning stuff, is because it feels a lot more overwhelming than it might for other people, where it feels like it should be a lot easier than it actually is. Build it up in my head and then I fuck up the little things, so I tend to stray away from that kind of stuff. That was a really good challenge and I forgot about that top. I actually have it in my bag of stuff that I'm gonna list on my Etsy shop because I don't wear that top. I really like how it came out. It's very Queen's Gambit vibe and it's such a gorgeous top. It's just not my style after all, and it was fun to try something out, so I will be listing that, but I'm very, very proud of that make. Okay, then I did a project that I titled Trying to Save a Dress That I Hate Wearing, and I believe I donated this skirt because this poor pile of fabric went through so many iterations. I tried my damnedest and it was fun trying to troubleshoot it. It was fun to mess around with, but I do think that ended up getting donated. Oh, and that's right, the next video was me making all 6 projects from the Tilly and the Buttons Make It Simple sewing book, which I know I gush about her all the time, but I cannot recommend her books enough. My God, I learned so much. And I've remade a bunch of those projects, like her t-shirt pattern, the cardigan pattern, just such fun things to make too. Then I made a dress that was in my repair pile for forever, but it was just something I actually didn't like wearing anymore, and I used that fabric to make a pillowcase that I use every day. That's the pillow I put between my knees when I sleep, and I use it every single night. Then I made my first wrap skirt. It was a lot of fabric and it was my first time printing a PDF pattern and taping it together, and I hated it so much. Still fun to try though. There's always some value in doing a new thing because it's just as valid to figure out what you don't like versus what you do like. Ooh, and then I made this snuffle mat for Bert out of some fleece scraps. It was a really good project to use up a lot of scraps that I had. I still have so much. He uses it once in a while. I put his cookies in there when I tuck him in his pen for the day if I'm going to work at one of my other part-time jobs, and it keeps him occupied and kind of activates his brain a bit, so I love that project. I still have yet to add fabric to the underside because it's a nightmare under there if you have trypophobia. Oh, and I guess I did do an Etsy launch in the spring. I completely forgot about that because I feel like I didn't do anything with my Etsy shop this whole year. I have felt incapable of doing stuff for my Etsy shop. So that's actually reassuring. I thought I completely dropped the ball this whole year with that, but this is telling me otherwise. This is why this video is helpful, to recap all the things. Although I don't think I sold most of the things I listed there. I think I sold pajama pants to carry, and I sold some of the bags and some of the jewelry, but I don't think I sold any of the garments, which is tough because they're generally like fitted to me, and I know I am not everyone's size. Shit, maybe I should just make my own version of comfies, because the number of people I see wearing those, I do want that, because as someone currently wrapped in a blanket, doesn't seem like the worst thing to just be drowning in cozy fabric, you know? Okay, next up is the slipper boots. I wear them all the time, though I have been wearing these slippers I was gifted for Christmas that feel like if Mrs. Weasley and Sally the Ragdoll had a collaboration. Then I made the fanny pack, which I put together for doing events, for art fairs and stuff, to sell things in person, but as we're still in a pandemic, that has not happened, so one day I'll get to use that old fanny pack. So I completely forgot that I started noodling around with some polymer clay this year and made a couple sets of earrings. Both of the half heart ones that I made, inspired by Polnareff, Jean-Pierre Polnareff from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I did gift both pairs that I made. Then, oh my god, I completely forgot about this series. I did the Fixing My Closet series. Dang, I went section by section where I took all my dresses, I donated what I wasn't gonna wear, I put back the ones that like I loved and sparked joy and that I was gonna wear as is, and then I fixed all the ones that weren't quite there, that needed little adjustments, little repairs, sleeve shortened, hems fixed, something like that. And I fixed all of them. I completely forgot. Okay, then there was another pattern drafting trial where one of the dresses I made in Make It Simple, Tilly and the Buttons workbook, it was actually like a romper in the original version, but I made a mock-up dress and then made another one. It's actually sitting right behind me because I still need to add pockets, but the like flamingo color block dress that I made, I think I want to change the top because it feels bulky and I'm not sure what to do with it, but it's hanging right behind the camera so that I will fuck around with it and try to like perfect it. You know what? I'm adding it to the list. Or not perfect, but improve upon so that I'm excited to wear it. Where I did wear it for one day and it just felt clunky. So I want to make it so that I want to wear it. You know what I mean? This is the problem I run into with my dresses, is they're good enough that I don't want to get rid of them, but then I don't end up wearing them because they're not quite there. But I did do a mock-up for it, and that is not something I often do. And it was a mock-up I knew I wasn't going to be wearing because I used some Buckwild fabrics for that project. And then I made my little Altoid travel paint tin. Someone recently commented, this is why you just buy this thing for $2 on Amazon because this seems like too much work. Those are the comments that I find the most annoying. It's not the point of the project. It's just a different attitude on life where that person was coming from versus where I come from. Okay, and then I have my sunglasses travel case, which I keep in my truck and I use every time I drive. I forgot I made that this year. That was a good, simple project. I enjoyed making that because it didn't take a lot of time or a lot of material to make. Then I have my Hermione's beaded dice bag, which actually is sitting right here. So maybe if you've been sitting through this whole thing this far, I'm gonna give this away. If this is something you have interest in, this is what the bottom looks like. It opens up, it has this like silky fabric on the inside. It's not a huge space, but could fit a set or two of dice. Let me know and I'll do a little giveaway. Just comment that you want the bag and I'll do a little drawing and send the winner a message. Otherwise, I don't know what to do with it, and that's why it's just been sitting here. It has this little time turner thing at the bottom that I was really proud of finding that charm and putting it all together. I hand strung all of the beads here. It's a fun bag, but I don't ever use it. Then I made my crochet hook roll up. They all still live right here. I love that they're just all in one spot, not sitting in a plastic bag, and they're all organized this way by size as well, which is helpful. Okay, also adding to the list, crochet literally one thing. Anything. I'll just find some small something to make. Amber has posted a ton of helpful links on crocheting projects in the Discord channel. By the way, if you want to join the Discord, just shoot me a message either Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. Let me know and I will send you an invite link. It'll be great. Come hang. Okay, next project was my first color block cardigan. It's the Batwing Cardigan from the Tilly and the Buttons book. It's just really fun to put together and cut out the pieces and like design them, because the first one I made was just all one solid color of fleece, but it was fun. using up some smaller bits of fabric that were laying around and getting a little more inventive with it. Then I made a little fabric basket. I use both of these for Bert's toys and his treats and stuff. He did get another batch of toys for Christmas this year, and I think I need to make a taller basket because he just has so much shit. It's a good and bad thing that like he doesn't destroy toys. He's very careful with them. He kind of mother hens them. Then was the second episode of Fixing My Closet where I assessed all of my tops. So like all my shirts, blouses, tank tops, sweaters. I had some really cool projects come out of that because I did donate probably the most out of that pile, but I completely upcycled and overhauled a number of items from this part of my closet, and I ended up gifting something I never wore. There was a super fuzzy sweater I never wore, and then I put that together with some like really cute woodland critter fabric and did a color block cardigan. I know I show it at the end of that video. I'll put a card here if you want to watch it. Had a friend of mine in mind when I was making it, and then I got to gift it to them, and they were really excited about it. So very proud of that project, actually, and that came out of something that otherwise wouldn't have happened if I wasn't kind of reassessing my wardrobe. And then, speaking of fixing my closet, I did a video on my visible mending speed weave mending loom stuff. I have used this so much, and it's a blast picking out the colors and making contrasting patches of weaving. It's almost like a little decorative element, and I'm really enjoying using it. Ooh, okay, and then fixing stuff. I did do an entire closet overhaul with my skirts, so like Fixing My Closet episode 3. In anticipation of that, I had fixed my rainbow skirt I made last year, where I did like a handkerchief corner thing. I spent what felt like months hand sewing the hem of that fucking thing, because being a handkerchief skirt, I always want to say scarf, what the fuck? There was just such a long edge to hem. It took forever because it's like a silk charmeuse. It does have a really good drape to it, but it almost had too much drape with the corners as they were. So I re-hemmed it with some bias tape, and that gave it a little bit of body at the bottom. And I love wearing this skirt. The only downside is it doesn't have pockets, but I don't think it should have pockets. It's an intentional choice to not have it, though it pains me not having pockets in something. Then yeah, I fixed the rest of my skirts. I think there were a couple that I ended up donating, and I believe I finished 3 gathered skirts that were just like plain solid colors. I had a black, a blue, and a red one. When all your tops are loud and all your bottoms are loud, I didn't like combining all of those together, so I needed some basics to complement the louder half. I don't know if that makes any sense. And I have started wearing my Starberry skirt more after having done that video and taking it off my mannequin, letting myself wear the fun, snazzy, special skirt. I deserve to wear it more than just on Halloween or whatever. It's a skirt I love, and I feel really good in it, and it's comfortable and brings me joy, and that should be enough. And then the next 2 videos are my proudest thing. I know I said the t-shirt quilt was up there, but this was something that scared me for a really long time, is fitting a commercial pattern to my body and then stumbling through making my dream dress. So it's the otter dress that I made with like the pink straps. It's the Butterick B6453, which is a pattern by Gertie, who I have one of her sewing books. I would like to work through it, but it feels intimidating in the same way this feels intimidating. But I got the princess seam bodice to fit me exactly perfect, and then I made a full dress out of it. It was a big challenge, but I did the dang thing. The only thing I regret is not having made more by now. So this is also a big priority on my list for this year, is to make more of those dresses, because I perfected the pattern so that I could have a closet full of them and I can use those special fabrics. Like, this is the type of garment I envisioned my special fabrics being turned into, and I haven't let myself do any of it. I also made myself underwear this year. I remember when I did my secondhand September challenge, and also with my no buy year, or I guess years, because I did 2 of them, underwear was a hard thing to not buy new ones of because they wear out. But also, shocking, not that hard to make, especially the style underwear that I wear. So proud of that. Every time I wear a pair that I made, it like makes me feel like I have a secret superpower. Oh, my eye patch. Honestly, I haven't really worn my eye patch. I keep it in my wallet just in case. I haven't had much occasion to not have my glasses on and be in a scenario where I would want to have my eye patch, where pretty much the circumstances I saw myself using it is if I had like a pool party and didn't want to get self-conscious about my wonky eye. And then I tried shirring, which I know I just did in my recent video, but my first ever attempt was this top that I think I'm also going to sell in my Etsy shop. It's super fun. I'm very, very proud of how it came out. I feel like I did a really good job making it. I just don't wear it because it's not really my style. Speaking of techniques that I was trying, shirring was definitely on my list last year, and I feel like I really got the hang of it with this last project I did. But then I also made some curtains for someone where I had to do mitered corners, and that feels like such a professional finish on something. I am so proud of how that came out. There's not much occasion to do it, so the fact I got to practice it at all made me very happy, and I feel like I did a really good job with those. Ooh, okay, and then there was a t-shirt surgery where I did some adjustable side ruching with some ribbon on a tank top that I made for work because I got a yellow t-shirt as like a uniform piece and I don't trust myself and my sweaty armpits. Very glad that I did that because otherwise I just would never wear that shirt. To be fair, this is an alteration I do a lot at one of my part-time jobs, but it was still fun to work on and like show y'all in a video. But adjusting the waistband on a pair of pants, it's something I've had people ask me throughout the years how to do, and it always seemed impossible basically to do that level of adjustment on a piece of clothing, but it's totally doable. You're just gonna take your time and make sure you're accounting for all the factors of the pants math you're doing. I promise if I can do it, you can do it. Also worth noting, apparently my eye patch video has 666 views. Of all the videos to have that one makes me the happiest. Next was the vintage dress haul, you know, unboxing and try on. That was super fun to go through. I loved wearing all those dresses. A thing I love doing in past times, picking out some truly outrageous dresses and trying them on with some friends at a thrift store or any kind of store. It's just a blast. You get to like pretend to be someone else for a bit. It almost feels like a costume. That's what the vintage dress haul felt like to me. And it was just a blast. That's all stuff I never would have had access to otherwise. So thank you again, Erica, if you happen to see this, for gifting me a ton of dresses. All right, next is another pants adjustment that I do at work a lot is taking in pant legs. This is the pair I donated. I also did that leg slit later in the year. There it is, yeah, like a month ago I did that. Those ended up getting redonated just because I didn't end up wearing them, but I'm still proud of the alterations. Oh yeah, and I made little Togepi bags. Those were some Patreon gifts, and I did do some test runs with some fabric markers. I have mixed feelings about the fabric markers. I don't see myself using them a ton, but it was still fun to try out, and like maybe something will come up in the future where they will suit my needs, but that wasn't quite it. I needed more precision, and markers on fabric, it's just gonna bleed. Maybe if I used a different kind of fabric or something. Oh, and then this was something I was also really, really proud of, though a little less practical as far as my day-to-day wear, but I made the League of Their Own dress. That's been a dream costume project of mine for so many years. I just never felt like I could do it. And the dress pattern I picked was challenging. I'm so proud of how that came out. Oh, and then my coasters. The friends I gifted these to still use them, but as I mentioned at the end of the video, there's gotta be another option. Okay. Oh, and then my Peekaboo Shirt. I did really like that one. I wear that once in a while. It's nice that it's a plain black top, but like a little jazzier than just a plain t-shirt. Then I did more polymer earrings. I also gifted these, so I don't have them anymore, but I did enjoy fucking around with those. It's hard with stuff like clay, much like I feel with needle felting, is there's like too many options of what to make. I feel like I get really stuck. Like with a plain canvas, where do you even go? There's no parameters to work within. There's no restraints. Too much choice. It's stressful. Oh, and actually didn't I? Oh, that's right. Jumping ahead a little bit, I did do my last minute Halloween costume project. That's right, because I did my Beetlejuice. How I've never done a Beetlejuice makeup thing before with how many black and white striped things I own. That honestly seems unfathomable to me, but here we are. And yeah, I did a little Rohan headband and everything. That was fun. I enjoyed doing that. And it made me want to actually make that cosplay. Adding it to the list. Oh, okay. And then I did my little cottagecore color block sweater. I can't remember what that pattern was from, but I really enjoyed making my own collar band. This is the style sweater I made 4 others of. So the color block cottagecore sweater is going up in my Etsy shop. It's the one with the Liberty of London fabric. It's just not quite my style, but that one led to me making the thumbhole cuff sweaters and the V-neck sweater. That's the one. I'm going to tweak the neckline again because the V-neck just isn't sitting quite right. Also, the V is not as deep as I usually like it, so I think I'm just going to round out that collar. Like I'm going to make a whole new collar band and just reinsert it because I haven't been wearing that top as is, which is indicative of something needing to get fixed on it. Speaking of fixes, I finally upcycled those cat tights into little knee-high socks, and I used the hot glue around the top to kind of give it some grip because knee-high socks tend to slip down on me. We already touched on those, and then my COVID update. Jarring seeing that in the lineup of other videos, but here we are. Oh, and then, okay, so I added the length to my peacoat sleeve. Well, sleeves, because I do have 2 arms, but I wear that all the time now. And the waterproof canvas Tardis bag that I made, I use every single day. It's the perfect size. I want to make other bags this size, maybe add a little interior pocket. I'm so pleased with how that came out. And yeah, that's my like go-to bag right now. Then my collapsible dice tray. I do want to improve upon that. Like I mentioned earlier, I do want to make more D&D stuff going forward now that I am playing and I have use for these things. So an improved dice tray and an improved dice bag are things that I want to make and have some ideas and sketches for. So that's on the docket. There's a certain kind of interfacing Carrie mentioned, and I think my fairy god Cheryl also mentioned, that I would like to give a try. I also have some scrap pieces from these dollar store cutting boards that I've made some pattern pieces out of. And I think using this, not interfacing because I'm not going to stitch through it or obviously like iron it to anything, but using this as like a stabilizer as the base of the dice tray and for part of the dice bag, I think will be really helpful because I don't want to use cardboard. I've seen people use cardboard. I don't know why I have such an aversion to that. And then, yeah, wearing handmade clothes for a week. That was really fun to work on and did show me that I don't need to keep limiting myself on the fucking dress thing. It like unlocked that corner of my closet for me. Put my phone away as if we were done. The last video is the one I did last week. So it's fresh in my brain where I did the flannel shirt shirring project and I'm smitten with that one and how it came out. It's just so cozy and lovely for winter months. I do feel like I need to add extra pockets to it though, because I have like the little chest pocket, but it's not quite enough. I can't like put my phone in there. Though I've been wearing it with my like skinny black jeans. So there are pockets available elsewhere. But yeah, this was incredibly helpful for me to do. I am genuinely feeling better about myself having gone through this. It's kind of wild. I didn't take a tally. I know I did a lot of non-garment things, and also some of it was just practicing techniques, which I know was part of my goal last year, was to improve the actual sewing skills, and I want to continue doing that. But I think it's going to take trying a lot of new types of projects, like working through patterns, even if it's not something I necessarily think I'm going to wear, just trying it out, looking through the vintage dresses and like assessing some of the techniques that they use in there is all going to help me continue to improve. Like this is going to be a lifelong process for me. I initially was going to say getting good at sewing, but I am good at sewing. I can let myself say that. I can make a lot of stuff for myself and I know a lot of things well enough to share with other people. I know I can be a little convoluted in my explanations, so they're never like straight on tutorials. So I don't think I'm a great teacher, but I think it shows that I have a good grasp of like how to do the thing, that I can show other people how to do the thing. But I only know how to explain things in a way that I would understand. And I know not everyone thinks about and sees the world the same way that I do. I'm feeling extremely tired now, so sorry there's like an energy drop. I'm genuinely in a better mental space than I was at the start of this, so if you hung out for the whole thing, thank you so much. My throat is sore because I've been talking so much, but there's so much to go through. And that's nice, isn't it? That I made a lot this year and forcing myself to look at it and see all the things I learned. Like I didn't know how to do a lot of that stuff last year. And I can't wait to see what I make next year. Like there's stuff I probably don't even know I don't know. And hey, I know I end every video with this, but of all videos to end with this, I literally wouldn't be able to do this without everyone over on Patreon. I just have no words for how meaningful it is to me that I get to do this as part of my work in life. I can't think of a single thing that I would want more than to be gifted the time and resources to just make stuff and learn how to make stuff and teach other people how to make stuff. It's absolutely incredible, and you all give that to me. Thank you. I'm going to end this before I start crying because I am right there. So thank you all for being along on this ride with me. Please let me know what you're proudest of this past year. The fact that you have survived to the end of the year is more than enough. And if you have any plans for next year, or even if it's just surviving that too, it's also enough. You're all enough. I am enough. I mean, New Year's is my favorite holiday because usually people are so optimistic. I know not everyone. There's just this potential for the new year, and I really wasn't feeling that these past few weeks. I've been down a lot and having a tough go, which I was surprised to watch in my recap from last year. I was also feeling this way last year in a different way, I think. And also I was less informed about my own brain, and like I didn't know that was depression at the time. We're watching it back. Very obvious. It's very obvious, but I didn't know. And I was working with the tools that I had. I feel like I'm better off no matter what, just knowing that about myself this year. I was not feeling particularly optimistic about the new year, and going through all this and setting some goals for next year and giving me things to look forward to, making and learning and trying out, and hearing from y'all about projects you're doing and just how your life has been has made me look forward to next year. And I didn't have that earlier today or in the past couple weeks. So thank you for that too, and letting me do this. I will see you back here with another video next Friday, next year. Happy New Year, and thank you so much for hanging out. Fetch was never going to happen.